Today, I'm talking with Alice Taylor, a powerhouse. We talk about various different themes and issues, personal and public and so on, from working with different aspects of the arts, from creativity, business, life, journalism, young people, how can educate them, how can we actually put our own knowledge and to help, and sometimes we might even hinder them. So I'm sure you're going to find this conversation really interesting. So here we are with Alice Taylor. So initially your background is in journalism or education or arts or...
Well, that's an interesting question. I wrote poems when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I gave them to my mum and I said, can you get these published for me? And she was like, I'm not sure anyone's going to want to publish these. And I'd always wanted to be on TV. I remember I was lucky enough to be able to do a small segment for the BBC when I was about 9 at the Royal Cornwall Show where I grew up. And the woman who was the producer, she said to my mum, she'll be on TV one day. But then my parents were, particularly my father, were like, you have to study something serious. Journalism's not a proper profession. You won't make money from writing books. I wanted to do theatre as well. I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to do music, but this was not considered a real profession, even though my mum's side of the family are pretty much all artists in some form. So I was kind of pushed into school, and I hated school, and I rebelled, and I was sort of kicked out, suspended. I studied law for a while, but it was not what I wanted to do. I went to work in a law firm. I hated it. And eventually I had started working. I was working in a law firm, but I was writing articles for local media on behalf of the law firm. So legal analysis, legal news. And I'd made contact with the editor, and he was, after a while, we'd built a relationship, and he was like, why don't you try writing something under your own name? And I was like, okay. So I did. And I ended up with my own column, and people loved it and hated it, but hated it because I was provocative. I was controversial. I talked about human rights and women's rights and why you shouldn't beat up your wife and why women should be able to have choice over their reproductive health, and I became quite well known from it, and I quit my job and became a journalist full time. And I remember the first month after I quit my job, I was working from a iPad because I'd had to give back my work computer and I didn't have enough money even to buy a new computer. But by the end of that first month, I worked so hard finding new clients, pitching, sending emails. I paid my rent and managed to buy myself a cheap computer, a €300 laptop. And that was 15 years ago. So
wow. So you've had this creative flair since you were very little.
Yes.
In terms of writing, did you write like a journalistic style, or you also wrote in a creative style?
It was creative, mainly looking back at my school books. I did write journalistically, but sort of I'd write about what I'd done, where I'd been, in lots of detail. So sort of storytelling, but in reality, sort of the precursor to the books I've written now about my travels around Albania. It was sort of, today I went here and it looked like this and it smelled like that and someone told me this. It was I've always been able to pick up on the 5 senses everywhere I go, which is something people have noted about the books I've read. They're like, you don't just talk about where you went and what you did. You write about what it looked like, what you heard, what it smelled like, how you felt, what it was like to touch, this is maybe something ADHD related. I'm constantly aware in like 5D of everything around me. Mm-hmm. And I always take notes as well. And I did this from a very young age. And even when I was writing poetry at the age of 6, I remember I'd written this book of poems about rivers around where I grew up. And again, it was not just how it looked, but how it sounded, how it made me feel. There was sort of multiple levels to it. I was a bit of a strange child. So always very creative in terms of writing. But, when I became a journalist, and then particularly when I started editing, it kind of did kill a bit of the creativity in me, because especially as an editor, you have to strip out any opinion, any description, any editorializing. You have to make it, I work for a big international media, Politico, you have to make it factual, straight to the point, concise, as few words as possible, simple language.
Do you have to put your opinion there as well? Do you have to do an analysis
No,
as a journalist or not?
No. If I'm doing, no, it has to be factual. And especially as an editor, I'm working with other people's content, stripping out the personal touches.
Opinion.
Yeah. It has to be very clinical in a way. And then when it comes to then having to use your imagination for your own writing, then it becomes a bit difficult. So
you mentioned quite a few things, and it sounds like a proper creative process, using your five senses, as well as you mentioned ADHD, and eventually writing what you believed into it. So there are three major elements. So how do they match with each other? So let's say, for instance, if somebody, so our listeners are just listening now to Alice and saying, okay, what can I perhaps deduct and take for my creative process? So how does this influence into your creative process?
And I was at a school in Kosovo recently speaking to a class of 12-year-olds, and I gave them this advice, which was, take notes and take photos wherever you go. So a big part of my creative process since I was a kid has been, it started in keeping a diary. Like I said, which everything I did, who I met, what I saw, what I remembered. Now on my phone, I have an app of notes. And if I am driving through the countryside somewhere and I'll see something, I'll take notes. If I hear a story or a legend, or, I take notes constantly of where I am, what I'm doing, what I thought, something maybe I want to write about later. And then I have photos as well. I've got 40,000 photos from Albania.
So practically you are constantly on research, and whatever
gathering
really touches you, that you put it there. So this is, let's say, first step. Step one for any creative to constantly archiving stuff. You never know when you're going to be using it.
Exactly. And when it came to writing my first book, I had to make sense of it all, but I had the information there. And I've got enough information ready for maybe another 10 books, I think now it's a shame we don't stop and look and take in the world around us. We're constantly... And you said this earlier when we were having a coffee, let your daughter get bored. We're almost afraid to let ourselves be bored. If we're bored, don't have anything to do, let's pick up the phone, let's scroll, let's look at something. We're constantly needing this stimulation, and we don't stop and just listen and look around and take in what's around us. Like when I go in a car or a bus or whatever, I don't like to talk. I like to just sit and look and take in every detail. And I think we've stopped doing this. Like I like to walk in Tirana rather than use a taxi or a car or anything, because there's so much to take in: sights, sounds, people, atmosphere, feeling, and we don't do that. We're like, no, we need to get from A to B as quick as possible. Let's drive, let's get a taxi, or let's sit on the bus and just look at the phone. We don't look around anymore. We don't take in what's around us.
Do you think that's a sense of self-preservation? Because, our brain, especially our mammal brain, will get overloaded with too many things. Yet an artist, I guess all of us subconsciously will record that. But we need to be aware of our...
But we are taking in more information by sitting glued to a telephone. I think we've become lazy and we think we need more stimulation, but we're not looking at the stimulation that's right in front of us. We think we need to look at social media or the news or what our friends are doing or a funny video about a cat. I mean, I do like a good cat video, but we're not, we're becoming addicted to these. You see kids today walking around just on their phones. You see people in the street walking on their phones. Sometimes I'm texting when I'm walking, but I'm working, but we don't stop and look around that much. We're not going to get overloaded by nature or the world around us. We're going to get overloaded by what is on the screen in front of us. We spend too much time.
So what do you think could impede or would help the creative process in someone? Because I guess when we overload it, then we would find it 10 times more difficult to sift through what would be valuable creatively. And then we fall into like standards.
I'm not suggesting that everyone does everything at the same speed as me, but I would say to people, like I said to these kids, stop, put the phone away, take notice of what is around you. Like, listen, what do you hear? What do you feel? Like, do you feel the air on your skin? What do you smell? What can you taste? How does looking at that view make you feel? Like, stop and think. This is never going to overload someone. You're standing on top of Lugara Pass. Don't just take a picture and get back in the car. Take a picture, put the phone away, look at the view. How do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? Do you feel longing? Do you feel like you want to jump on? Like, how does it make you feel? We don't do this anymore. We take a picture to look at on our phone later or post to Instagram, and we don't stop and appreciate how we feel or how the wind feels on the skin or whether it's colder up there than it is down below. This is not going to overload people, but this is the first step. This is the first step in any creative process, is just to take notice of what is around you, how it makes you feel. Then maybe at the end of the day, you take a few notes or whatever, or you take the photos and then you revisit them and you connect. Oh yeah, this picture made me feel happy, or, oh, I remember how hot it was that day. You know, I feel we're losing that connection between the world around us and how we are part of it.
So what is your opinion with the, in my point of view, annoying trend of people going to any event and pulling their mobile phone out? Because it's linked to your concept, where people are not really enjoying with their own human senses, but is in a way putting a filter in front of them.
Yes.
And then later on, only showing off for the world to get the appreciation out of what they did, where they were, because I'm famous and so on. So it just brings me down now to the point that you've got something like 12 million people following you on social media.
I get about 100,000 people and 12 million views a month. But I want to take something you say there, like someone's motives for posting on social media. Why would that make you annoyed? What their motivation is? Why would you feel bad? Like, why would you maybe judge them like, oh, they want to show off? I'll give you an example. When I took my social media to the next level and started making these reels, I was going through a terrible personal time in my life. I was in a very unhappy relationship. I was not feeling appreciated. I was not feeling loved. I was feeling that I was not special, that I was really pushed down by this person. And I started posting on social media this content, and people were showing me appreciation and friendliness, nice comments, love, and it made me happy. It brought me happiness to feel that I somehow created this community. And yes, I was posting videos like, oh, I'm here, I went to this concert, and people were like, oh, this is so nice, or oh, you look good. And this made me happy. I don't see anything wrong with that. How I've built my social media, which I don't monetize, but the community, the comments I get, it has helped me survive through a very difficult time. So I try not to judge too much when people post. I post my workout pictures. And I see these reels sometimes on social media, oh, people just showing off on their workout. And what? I used to be fat. I used to smoke. I used to drink. I used to be unhealthy. I used to get out of breath walking up the stairs. Now I've just done a triathlon and I ran a half marathon on Sunday for fun, just because I felt like it. I'm going to show off about it, because that's not just, oh, I'm showing off, I'm running. That is blood, sweat, tears, effort, mental strength, surviving terrible circumstances. That's discipline. There's so much more to it than that. And so I think you earn the right to show off.
Is becoming a role model for other people, but also, as the saying goes, if you really want to help yourself, find a way to help others.
Yes, of course.
But my point was, in fact, not, and I absolutely agree, because social media has got quite a lot of important impetus to giving into the society. What I meant is going from your opinion to, instead of enjoying the reality, they're going to an event or whatever they're doing, and they're constantly glued here to the screen instead of really enjoying the performance. Or
I think there's a balance. I went to my favorite Albanian band is Elita Pest,
Hey.
and I went to see them recently. I've seen them a few times, and I love it. And I went, and I think I was maybe 20% of the time on the phone because I wanted to take some videos, because I wanted to remember it. I wanted to, but I also just screamed and sang and jumped and sweated. There's a balance between the two. But It's when you go to a concert and people just record constantly. It's like, you're never going to watch that. I made a couple of clips because I did watch them afterwards because I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make a balance. But it's more than anything, it's about, I mean, I take photos when I go to places because I'm documenting as well. I'm a journalist. I will maybe use it in a book one day. I have a following on social media who I want to not show off to, but show what the country has to offer to. I think you have to make a balance, but I'm also there, I'm absorbing everything as well. This is how
are we saying in the last 8 to 9 years, your life in a way has changed?
Absolutely.
So if you could just tell us a little bit, what happened?
I
What
don't know. I
happened
came to
you?
Albania.
Did you find your calling, or did you find your passion?
So. I mean, it was obviously always in me, but coming here, I'd always wanted to write a book. I'd always wanted to work in TV and things, but it was only, I never knew what my niche was going to be, you know, or like I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what about. And then when I came here, I found the inspiration. I remember the first few days of being here, I felt so inspired, you know. Now I paint, I've had exhibitions, I'm sporty. I found all the things I always wanted to do. I found a way to do them here. Being a mother also changed me a lot as well. I stopped drinking. I mean, I have occasionally a glass of wine, but I don't drink, you know, like a Brit, like I used to. I'm very acutely aware that everything I do is being watched by a little human who wants to be like me. So I have to be the best version possible. And I'm not the best mum. I get mad and I lose my mind sometimes and I say things and I think, oh, you're terrible. She's gonna be telling her therapist about that in 20 years, you know, but
as we all do.
I hope I didn't traumatize her for that. But I try and set a good example for her, whether it's, I mean, today we went on a 10-kilometer bike ride. Tonight we're going to go running together. I'm taking her away for the weekend because whenever I go to make films, documentaries about culture and travel in Albania, I take her with me because she needs to learn about her roots. And also, I mean, she's been to parts of this country, kids in her class their parents don't even know exist, you know? I want her to meet people, explore, try all the food, try on the costumes, learn the dances. I want to be a good role model.
So practically for the last 9 years, you never got bored of this country.
Absolutely
although it's
not.
small in size, but
I'm waiting for I'm hoping that before I get too old to continue doing this, they will have figured out how to clone people. So there's Alice who can stay and do the work, do my job, which pays the bills. And then there's Alice that can go and explore the rest of the country. Like, I have so many places I want to go and people I want to meet and things I want to, and I don't have the time for it. I can't. Each weekend, it's like, am I going to do this or go here? Or, yeah, but I want to go there. And I don't have it's not a case of getting bored. It's a case of I'm stressed because I can't do everything here that I want to do.
Wow. So this brings me to the second step of creativity. You have written a few books,
yes,
and you've written poetry,
yes,
and so on. As you said, you are just multi-art form artist. You have an exhibition, and so on. So this material of your books,
yes,
can you tell us a little bit about them?
So the first book, 250 adventures, I wrote each adventure is about 200 words long, and it was written based on notes I'd taken over the then 7 years that I'd been here, and accompanied with photos. And it covers people, places, traditions, people and places and traditions that even don't exist now that existed when I wrote it. There are traditions that have been lost, even in the short time that I've been here, which is really quite concerning. Buildings that have been demolished, people that have passed away, oral traditions that are being lost. And this is really interesting because it's published in English and Albanian together. I wanted to have the two languages together because it's sold internationally, and I wanted people to be exposed to the Albanian language, especially foreign people.
Can people buy the book in Amazon?
Yeah. You can buy it in Amazon. You can buy it at the airport. You can buy it in Albania as well. And then the second book, I was asked. Well, I wanted to make a different version of the first book, something more like a photo book, but with text. The text in this book, Inside Albania, I went very deep into tradition and like legends for certain areas and traditions which are maybe a bit not the normal things that people would know. there is some of the crowd pleasing stuff in there, but there's also a lot of things where I did a lot of research. I spoke to a lot of people. I did a lot of translation, and I tried to include places which are really off the beaten track, like John Marth in Corcher, where I went to meet the Cre Placu, and he told me, you're the first British person to ever come in the village, you know?
The elderly. So in English, that's the
elder.
Chieftain,
Yes.
what you could
he
call
invited me. I met him in the street. He invited me into his house. And of course, it's Albania. You go because it's a safe place. And yeah, places which are off the beaten track. And actually, this book, I was very lucky. When it was being printed at a print house that the government were also printing a lot of things for the European Political Community Summit, which was held in Tirana. And they saw it and they asked if they could buy some copies of it. And I said no, because I don't want to accept money from the government. I said, you can pay to have how many copies printed. You pay the printing for yourself. And they gave it as a guest to every prime minister and president in Europe.
Oh.
Yeah. So
what is your rebelliousness against the government?
No,
any government or
no,
it
would be any government. It's a matter that for my work, I cannot accept money directly from a government. I did not want to be paid for it. I would rather you pay the printing costs, and that's fine.
How about community projects? Because to me, this book, it's for the good of the country and it serves the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in that case, in fact,
but I make money.
The government should even give more for this sort of causes.
But I'm not going to get rich from that, you know. And also, I mean, I work for a very big international media, and it's very tricky for me to accept any money from an institution. If I then had to write something about corruption, for example, hypothetically. You know, it becomes complicated. For me, it's better to have a clear line of distinction. I get not everything in life is about money. You know, I get the satisfaction. I wrote a book. I'm selling it. It's doing relatively well for a niche book on Albania. I'm not going to get rich from it. I would rather just be satisfied with the fact that it's on the desk or in the bookcase of every prime minister and president in Europe. You can't put a price on that. And I'd rather... That's fine for me.
Actually, you mentioned a really important and interesting point that I've always discussed with a lot of artists, which is compromise.
Yes.
What is the balance between an artist being commissioned and an artist being independent and creating? And then where is the line there to compromise? Because in my point of view, I think similarly to you, when I've been commissioned, and then just say to me, oh yeah, can you do this a little bit differently, this more? I get so put off. Then eventually, there've been a couple of cases when I've said, look, I'm too busy, I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Because could that be my problem? Could that be any artist's problem, a creative's problem?
I think it's, you have to set boundaries quite early on, you know, with the person that you're working with. You know, this is what I will do For example, I work as a fixer sometimes for like TV crews that come here or researchers, journalists that need help with translation or contacts or whatever. And I say, this is my fee. This is what it covers. This is what I will do under that. If you need more than that, we have to discuss it. Okay. You know, it's the same. I was asked recently to make some original pictures for a very small exhibition. And I said, okay, I may sell pictures, I may not. This is not, as a result of it, this is not guaranteed. You should cover the costs, my costs. So the framing, the canvas, the paint, etc. If you don't have the budget to pay, you know, this is what is covered. If you want extra pictures, if you don't like this picture and you want another one, blah, 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 this is extra. When it comes to my time, I try and give about 10% of my time pro bono. So whether that's going and speaking at a school or maybe just helping someone who's younger than me or giving advice or replying to all the messages I have of people who want help with something or they want to contact, or whether it's actively mentoring someone or volunteering or using my skills for free to help someone or a cause, I try and do that each month. Because I had a mentor, I still have a mentor who helped me hugely earlier on in my career. And I remember saying to him one day, you know, I've achieved so much, but I have to thank you for it. And he was like, no, you don't thank me for it. You have to give what I gave you back to someone else. Like, this is what you have to do. And I find in Albania, there's not much of a culture of this. People are very competitive with each other. in their field. There's no real culture of mentoring or doing something for free because it's the right thing to do or to help someone. I went to speak at a school recently. It was a private school. And the owner was very surprised that I didn't ask for money. She was like, I thought you would have asked for money. And I'm like, well, you're not profiting. You are a profit school, but you're not profiting off me. I'm here to speak to the kids, and to inspire them. So I do try, obviously there's things where I do insist on payment, but I try and give as much as I can for free. I went to a school in Kosovo recently. I didn't ask for a fee, but I said, can you cover my transport costs? Because, I'm taking a day off work, I'm traveling, cover the transport at least,
So giving it back, I mean, I've had similar experiences, but also I've had some amazing mentors. And in fact, my book, Successful Artists Mean Business, is dedicated to my mentor, the amazing choreographer Panayot Kanachi, who actually set up and created the first Albanian national ballet. But the competitiveness, I guess, is something that goes on into any creative field. Yes. And especially if you are in a theater company, if you're in a dance company. With film is different because the competition is somewhere outside there. But when you stay and be with your teammates, like a dance company, because I've lived in so many dance companies, the competition is fierce.
Yeah. Competition is okay. I think it's good to have an element of competition, but you have to support people as well. You have to... let me give you an example. I don't want to name the person because they'd be embarrassed, but someone I know is an athlete and he was racing with his best friend in a race. And it wasn't like a championship or anything, but it was a competitive, all the guys who were the fastest runners were competing against each other. And his friend had trained really, really hard. And my friend hadn't trained as much. And they were getting towards the finish line and my friend was ahead by a few meters. He slowed down and he let his friend win and take third place on the podium. The first time he'd ever placed on a podium. And he got up and he stood on the podium with his two kids, his two sons, who were like, oh my God, my dad has won a trophy. This is the best thing ever. But my friend, he saw his friend was in fourth place and he said, no, do you know what? He deserves to stand on the podium and his sons to be proud of him. And he slowed down and let his friend pass him. This is very un-Albanian. He's Albanian, but this is very un-Albanian. But not everything is about winning or being better.
Yes.
And the satisfaction he has for what he did is better than getting third place on the podium,
So we're talking here about that sensation and feeling when you give away, because throughout all of the time that I've known you, I've seen that it's not only 10%, you give much, much more. For example, when the key element is that you are not monetizing your social media.
No. So, okay, sometimes I might get an invitation. Oh, do you want to come to our Butina or something? You don't have to pay. Do you have a fee? And I say, no, we'll come. If you want to invite us, me and Dea, to come, I'm not going to, without paying, that's fine. But if I'm not happy, we'll pay. I'll promote you only if I'm happy with what I, with everything that happens, but I never accept any payment for promotion I do on social media. And quite often I'll go to somewhere and I'll book under my middle name when I book on booking.com. So if I book through Booking in Albania, I book with my middle name. So people don't know it's me and I pay. And then afterwards I leave all the reviews and do the posts and the pictures and stuff like that. So I don't monetize. I could, but I've chosen for now not to.
Wonderful. So in terms of your television work, you said that there is a process that you need to follow and so on. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us about your, stage presence, makeup, reading the prompts, preparing all of these things. Because in a way, knowing you've from very early age, you did dance, you did music, you did piano. And so you've been more or less very courageous. Has that helped you?
I think so.
How is that transferable skill being used to your benefit?
I mean, I think I did public speaking as a kid as well. My mum sort of made me do it. I was always the narrator in the school play, talking, it's when the teachers at school say, you're not going to make money from talking so much, and it's like, well, look at me now. I was always quite confident, I guess, with public speaking and speaking in front of people. I would play violin in concerts and, competitions from a very early age. So I was used to getting up there and squeaking my way through whatever it was, and doing music exams as well, preparing yourself mentally for that, the techniques that you learn not to be so terrified, or at least show the world that you're terrified. That definitely helped. I don't use prompts or anything on the screen. I've got used to putting myself out there. But when I get nervous, or, I'm about to go on stage in front of a lot of people, or live TV, or interview a prime minister or something like that, I have this little talk with myself. And it's, you are an equal to this person. If it's the prime minister, for example, any prime minister, there's been a few I've interviewed. Right now in the studio, you are an equal. They have come to you because they respect you. This is your job. You have this job because you are a professional and you are capable. Like you have the right to be here. You have the right to hold space here. Why are you freaking out? Like, how to do this. Stop overthinking, and I have this because it's true. Like, I'm here because I am capable. I'm here because I know my stuff. He has come or she has come because they know I'm capable and they respect me. So why are you nervous? And like, if I'm standing on a stage or teaching or whatever, and I feel nervous, I again remind myself, you are here because you know this. That's the only reason you're stood here. So why are you freaking out? If you make a mistake, laugh it off. Like, you're here because this is what you're supposed to do. This stuff is in your head. Stop stressing. So this is how I sort of prepare myself.
That's wonderful. So this is the preparatory work. Mm-hmm. But what happens afterwards, after you've made mistakes and so on? How do you deal with that? Because we all make mistakes, especially if you're on stage. The moment you go on stage, you just like become the prey of whatever judgmental things. And this goes on with social media when people start writing whatever they want to write. Because I've read some of your comments there, and I've seen some people being horrendous.
Yes.
And they think that they can hide behind a fake name and so on.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because I guess this is a huge and very powerful element that artists or creative people generally need to really cope with.
Yeah.
We cannot avoid it, cannot eliminate
There's
it.
two things, and they deserve separate answers. So I'll explain about mistakes first, and then I'll talk about the dealing with negativity from people on social media. So when it comes to making mistakes in public, whether it's on TV, whether it's when I'm teaching or giving a talk or whatever, or in a podcast, for example, I think that being human and accepting you made a mistake and making a joke out of it can win you more respect than freaking out and going, oh my God, oh no, can we cut? Or crying or storming off or looking mortified. When I've made mistakes, I make a joke out of it, or say, oh, I had a raki before, or I obviously not enough. That's just, it could be anything. I try and humanize it. Even sometimes draw attention to it. I give you an example. I was in Strasbourg. I'd been at a Council of Europe plenary where Kosovo was wanting to join the Council of Europe, and they were voting on whether they should or not. And they won the first round of voting. And I was invited to the after party, so to speak. And I was there alone. I didn't really know anybody. There was all the Kosovo government there, and and I'm very tall. And I was wearing high heels. And they had all these like cocktail tables, right? With the draped over them, a cloth and glasses and everything. This girl I kind of knew, she came over to me and she said, would you like to meet the Prime Minister? I was like, well, yes, of course I would, and I quite like Albin Kurti, and I was quite excited, So I went over and we was introduced, shook hands. He said, oh, Alice Taylor, I know you. I've read your articles. And I was like, oh my God. And then he was like, do you know who I am? Like joking. And I was like, oh, I kind of recognize, we had a bit of banter and the conversation ended. And I was like, yes, Alice, you killed that. He's going to remember you now. Fantastic work. Turned around, walked off, tripped over a table.
The whole table?
The whole table crashed to the ground. Champagne glasses everywhere. smashed.
He
And
will
of course,
forever remember you now.
oh my God. So the whole room went quiet because it was quite high security as well, because, and everyone, there was that moment of, are we under attack? And then everyone looked at me, and I'm 6'2", I can't hide, and I was in heels. And this woman, Albanian woman, I won't name her, she came over, she was a politician. She came over, she saw me mortified. She was like, pick up a glass. And I picked it up, and she was like, if you break a glass by accident, you have to smash another one for good luck. So we did it. Hey, good luck,
Oh, that's wonderful.
And everyone laughed and forgot that I'd made a total fool out of myself. I'm not suggesting if you make a mistake on a stage, you smash your water glass, but I turned it around. I made fun of the situation. I made a joke out of myself, and I stopped. It also bridged the gap between me picking myself up off the floor and running out crying. I didn't have to do that. And I think this is a more human way of handling it.
That's wonderful.
I made a mistake. Wait, I find it funny.
Yes, it is. Actually, by the way, for listeners and our viewers, we're not saying that when you break a glass, you grab another one and smash, the whole set. No,
I'm not giving advice. When it comes to hate on social media, okay, I have published a lot of the comments I get, but I just want to say it's probably about 1% of the comments I get.
And again, I guess people just show what they feel about themselves. And also we're going back to the competition thing.
Exactly.
Only people in your circle who are jealous and so on.
There are certain demographics of people who are mean. The nameless, faceless, fake profiles. There's a certain demographic of woman and a certain demographic of man. I'm not going to go into it too much. But there is a lot of jealousy. Mainly it's jealousy, or I wish I could be doing that,
Yes.
It's a very small amount. Most of the comments I get in private messages I get are, thank you, you made me laugh, you made me happy, you made me remember something from my childhood. One of these comments is worth 10,000,
Yes. You transported me when I got your book. I read, I saw the pictures. I saw the picture where I was born. Because I was in my house used to be on top of Hemingway Bar, exactly on top there. So, and some of the comments and some of the phrases that you'd used that are not used anymore. They are just amazing. So you are not only bringing joy to our generation, but also you're helping to preserve the tradition.
Yes, this is important.
As the theme came to preserving the tradition, what do you think is going on now with all of the influence of social media, specifically for artists? Because now what I would like to ask you, together with this question, is you've written, obviously you use your knowledge and your talent and so on to constantly promote yourself. But what is the process after you've written the book, after you prepared all the material in promoting it? Because you came even to London and you did your promotion, the promotion of your book. So, because this is really important. A lot of creatives will have the product, but they're afraid of really testing it into the audiences. And that's where the real value is.
I probably don't promote my books as much as I should do. I should probably post more, because sometimes I come across people who follow me and they don't know I've written a book. I should be more proactive. I mean, my books are sold in the bookshops in Albania, Adrian at the airport. That's where most of the sales are. It is going out, doing book talks, doing book signings, but I find this... I get like this imposter syndrome almost, I get really nervous. No one's going to come, or they're not going to like my book, or they're not going to buy it. And I'm going to be sat there with a pile of books and they're going to I'm going to feel stupid, or is it too expensive for some people? The second book was very expensive to make, for example. It's photo quality paper. So a lot of this goes through my mind, and I guess I'm not active enough in promoting it as I should be. But that's okay. Like, I'm not going to get rich from making a book. I don't want to get rich from making it. I'd rather keep promoting Albania, because you said promoting yourself. I don't think I'm promoting myself. I think this is the problem.
Your creativity, your products, which in a way would give the payment.
I see it the other way around. I'm promoting Albania, and my fame is a byproduct of that, rather than I want to be famous for promoting Albania. Do you see what I mean? I think there's a difference there. I want people to read what I write and listen to what I say and look at what I produce and see the content rather than me making it, if that makes sense. I get recognized in the street all the time. It happens a lot. I can't walk around. There's no such thing as me, you know, I mean, it's not like I'm noisy or Eddie Rama or something, but I can't go for a dinner without someone recognizing me. There's no sneaking around. Like, people know, which can be a bit difficult for people I'm with sometimes. But that is, and it makes me happy because people are really sweet. They're really nice. And that gives me some pleasure. But that's not the goal. This is the like side effect, you know? I want people to listen to what I say because they like what I'm saying, not because I'm saying it, you know? Maybe this is why I find it difficult to promote the books as much as I should, because I don't want it to be just because I have written it. I want people to want to read it because it's about Albania. That's weird, I guess.
As you were talking, I just was thinking, you are an Albanian citizen, apart from being British citizen. Yes. And then you mentioned the name of the Prime Minister. You don't have any ideas on going into politics.
No. I've been asked, not asked to go into
politics. Because you are the born rebellious and you speak your mind, and a lot of people would really sympathize and also will understand. You will call attention to a lot of people.
I've been asked, it's not that I've been asked by a political party, but I've had people asking me, will you, would you, can you go into politics? And honestly, I think I would always want to retain my journalism in some way. Like I said, I work for Politico. If I went into Politico, is like one of the biggest media, most prestigious like written media in the world. If I went into politics, I would lose that. I wouldn't be able to go back to it. It would be very difficult to. You cannot blur those lines between journalism. And even when I'm going out and I'm filming culture and going around making little videos, this is still journalism to me. And I kind of... Also, there's another thing. I used to work in investigative journalism up until a few years ago, and there are safety issues with that. There were safety issues with that, not from politics only, but from people. And I have a daughter, and I have to be very conscious of what decisions I make in my life could and will impact her in some way. Maybe politics is not the right thing for me to be in for her. It would impact her, whether it's I have to have security with me, or whether it's she might have problems getting a job at some point, or, you know, I have to consider how things will impact her. I don't think I'm ready for that sort of
So what
life.
I deduct, based on what I've known you for a few years now, it's freedom in many different aspects, not only as a person, but also as a creative and as an independent thinker, at the top of your values in life.
Freedom, yes. I'm self-employed. I have been for 15 years. I work for Politico, but I'm a contractor. I work for Euronews, but I'm a contractor. As you know, I have ADHD. I do not function well in an office environment. I get up at 6. I have my coffee. I take my daughter to school. I go running or swimming, sometimes both, or cycling. I paint a picture. I do my own stuff. I log on to work in the afternoon. I have a break. I pick up my daughter. I have the freedom. I couldn't work in an office. I couldn't have this structured sort of, I need my freedom. I need to be able to go and do what I want and think what I want and say what I want, and as much as I can, being a journalist and remaining neutral. But yeah, having the freedom, like today, you know, to go cycling with my daughter. We're going to go running later. I've got work in between. You know, I need that freedom. Life, I could probably make more money if I was doing an office-based. I could move to Brussels and work in I could climb the career ladder in journalism there and earn more money. But why would I want to work in Brussels in an office 5 days a week, 12 hours a day?
So how do you balance this innate ability to really love your freedom together with having to sit down, having to organize stuff, prepare, and then just go? Because what I've read, every time I read your articles, they are thorough.
Yeah,
they're not really like a flying
you
bird.
know-
But so how do you balance that out?
Yeah, I
the
mean-
need for consistency and discipline together with the absolute need for freedom.
Because, for example, I work 2 till 4 and then like 6 till 10 in the evening. Those are my sort of set hours for work. And when I'm in those hours, I'm focused. Also, maybe it's the same for you as well. It's just a matter of downloading the information that's in my brain, you know? And if I'm passionate about something, if I want to do it, I'm focused and I can download everything in one go and it makes sense. And, you know, we retain more information than the average person, I think. And when it's something you're passionate about, it's just, you click download and it prints out.
Yeah.
It's like a superpower.
Exactly. I was diagnosed in my late life with ADHD. And I completely agree with you. For me, the process is the moment I started. Up to that moment, I just would do anything and everything. I would just go around, find excuses, clean, organize, and so on. I don't know if other people do this, but I'm sure they...
I repainted my kitchen pink once while I was supposed to be starting a task.
On a spur of a moment.
I left. I was in an online meeting. I'd turned the camera off because it was a bit boring. And I just... suddenly I was at Deutsche Color buying pink paint and then I was home. I redecorated the kitchen. It's a small kitchen. And then I sat down and I wrote the article in the end, but I painted the kitchen pink first. But the article got written. It was very good.
At the last hour, the 11th hour. You just, it's same here.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased to hear that somebody...
When I have exhibitions, the one before last, the pictures weren't dry when I went to hang them in the exhibition, you know, just before the midday, 2:00 on the day of the exhibition opening at 6:00, the paintings were still wet, you know, and they were the best ones I did at the
and
last
I love
minute.
your concept saying it's just there so much. The whole process is nothing else more than downloading.
Yeah, but it's the difficult thing with ADHD, like you said, is flicking that switch between having it and making it happen. Because if you don't want to do it, or the right amount of pressure's not there, or you're not in the right place or whatever, finding that download button it can be really, really difficult. Like for me with homework when I was at school, there was no download button. The knowledge was there. I was the smartest kid in the class, as my teachers would always say, but I did not apply myself. That download button was missing because I didn't want to be there. And I wasn't challenged enough.
And the amount of creative people, artists I met who eventually found out that they had ADHD, they thought perhaps there's something wrong with me.
And we all gravitate towards each other. Have you noticed?
Yes.
Like a lot of my friendship group are artists or creatives in some way, or if they're not, they're very obsessed with something, maybe sports, you know, we're quite obsessive. But we tend to gravitate towards each other. But I wanted to address something because maybe we're making it sound like, oh, everyone has ADHD these days. No, this is not true. It's always existed. But like you and like me, it was not understood and diagnosed properly. I was 6 when my parents were called into school by the school psychologist and, you know, there's something going on with her. And I don't remember, but my mum told me at the time, I think it was the school psychologist, the idea of ADD was mentioned, but it was dismissed by my father, who was a psychologist, because ADD is something only little boys have.
Yes.
It was only something for boys.
Yeah.
And this is what happened to many women with ADHD. Men are not more likely to have it than women.
Because women, you know, would demonstrate it in a different way.
Yes, and we also then learned to mask it more. So actually the rates of ADHD being diagnosed, the amount of people with ADHD has not changed. Maybe there are a few wrong diagnoses or whatever. It's just being recognized more. And so many women are finding out later in life, often when their kids are diagnosed, because it tends to be genetic, they're finding out that they actually had it, and that's why they've struggled for so long. It's not that it's fashionable, and I hear people say, oh, everyone has a little bit of ADHD. Yes, everyone can have a little bit of it, but the difference between ADHD and having symptoms of it in your character is ADHD symptoms, you have to have them to the point it negatively impacts your life. Because, okay, we're making light of it now, But there are real problems if it's untreated. You are more likely to go to prison. You are more likely to be a victim of violence, man and women. You're more likely to be in an abusive relationship. You're more likely to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. If it's not diagnosed, you're more likely to kill yourself. You're more likely to have depression and anxiety if it's left untreated, because the symptoms are severe. You can say, oh, everyone has a bit of ADHD. I'm hyperactive. I can't concentrate. Okay, cool. But have you lost 5 jobs in your life because of that? Have you fallen into debt? Have you had a problem with drugs or alcohol? No, you haven't. You know, so that's the difference.
Yeah, as well as really having to have the proper professional assessment.
Yes,
because people will see a few things, they will watch a few YouTube videos, and they would just like stamp somebody. Oh yeah,
but this can be good if you see stuff online and you think, oh my God, this sounds like me. Great, but go get assessed.
Yes,
go get assessed. You don't have to take medication. You don't have to, especially if you're older.
You have found the best medication ever.
Sport,
because that's what they say. The best medication is just like dopamine hitting your brain, every day through sports activity. And I guess that's why I was saved as well, because I liked it or not, I always had to wake up at 7. Yes. Or it's a specific time, go and do my ballet, contemporary dance, and all of the physical movements. So no matter if I was, I don't know, upset or I felt in low moods, when I just would drag my feet in, suddenly everybody knows when they do an aerobic class, and when I would do a ballet class or whatever, within 5 minutes, the brain would produce that dopamine and you feel happy without knowing. So that's the best
problem
medicine.
Is it becomes addictive because we have addictive personalities. So you end up signing up for triathlons 2 weeks before.
Oh God.
I did it.
Injuries or anything?
No, because I'm fit. I trained, you know, but I signed up for this triathlon 2 weeks ago, and I signed up 2 weeks before, and I'd never used a road bike before. I had 2 weeks to prepare for. I know how to use a city bike, but not a road bike. But I did it, and I did a good time. And I've just signed up for another one, you know? So it does become addictive. But I think, well, at least I'm addicted to sport. And I'm not addicted to cigarettes like I used to be, or Coke like some people are, or, you know, alcohol. Better spend my money and my time being fit and being active than doing something destructive.
I understand as well, because I associate with quite a lot of these things. But luckily, I never liked alcohol. I've never liked cigarettes. Good. And I guess I found a way to be addicted to doing this. You know, if I don't have an event every couple of weeks that I've had to prepare, meet people, go out. And I think this is another balancing act to really keep out my ADHD downside of lack of dopamine. By meeting people and having an activity. So I guess we're going into different theme, but I guess also for creative people to have a meeting with other people, to have something set up.
Yes.
Because that will
have a project to work on.
And also to call and speak with people instead of just writing.
Yes.
Because speaking, for example, me talking with you now is like hundreds of ideas come to mind, but at the same time, we find things in common.
Yes.
So we were talking before coming here, and then straight away we went into an idea of a project as well. So, Alice, what else do you want to tell us that you feel that you need to pass it on specifically for creative people? Because the whole aim of the creative circle of the podcast is to have a platform for creative people, to listen to people like you, people who have gone through trials and tribulations in their life, but also to possibly eradicate, I don't know if I will achieve it in my lifetime, the struggling artist. There shouldn't be people who are so creative, who give so much to the society, but also to struggle financially. So what can you say in relation to this?
This is a difficult one because, you know, I'm a freelancer and it's always a struggle. I'm lucky I have a contract, you know, but you've got to hustle. And it's a matter of spending like 20% of your time, at least, networking, generating, talking, reaching out, contacting people, trying to even, I remember when I started as a journalist, it's not like I walked into a job at Politico, I was doing corporate blogging because I came from the legal sector. So I reached out to law firms and I offered my services there. So I spent years doing journalism, but also doing corporate stuff that maybe wasn't so fun. To generate money as well. But you've got to constantly keep at it, and diversify. So I offer or have offered content writing, editing, podcasting, marketing, editing, fixing, all sorts of things. Look at your skill set and think, well, how else can I, repackage these? Teaching, mentoring. Okay, I don't charge for mentoring, but teaching, I teach courses and things on public speaking, how to prepare for an interview, this sort of thing, how to write an article in English, because I have skills to give. So you figure out what your best talents are, and then you have to figure out how to make money from it. This was advice my mentor gave me, not just, I want to be a painter. Okay, great. But how are you going to make money from it? Could you open a studio? Could you teach classes to kids? Can you do mural painting for businesses? Can you have to think outside of the box, not just, I want to paint pictures and I'm going to hope that someone will buy them and I can pay my rent. It doesn't work like that. You have to be creative and find ways to market yourself and your skills and repackage them in different ways, even if they're things you don't necessarily really love doing. You have to do that hustle to be able to do what you love. So me going and making a documentary like I'm going to do tomorrow, the money I will get for that when I look at it is double figures, not even triple figures, when I look at the money I make each month. But that, I do something I don't like so much that pays my mortgage, so I can go and do that. Yeah. Or that allows me to go on a press trip, which I'm only going to use for social media, where I make zero money. I work until 10 at night doing something I like, but that's not it's not my sole,
So you're not looking for an immediate reward.
Yeah. You have to balance. I'm using my skills as a creative to make a good income so I can go and do the things that I love as a creative person. So I can go paint a picture of this beautiful view, It's not I think people sometimes they get stuck on just, I want to be an actress or something and I only want to make money from being on stage. Okay, cool. But only 1% of people can really do that sustainably. Can you teach kids? Can you teach teenagers? Can you teach public speaking? Can you open, do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's means to an end.
Two of my friends, female friends, are voiceovers for major British television channels. And you know what they say? Their practical work in studio or recording their voices and so on takes only 5% of their entire activity. 95% is networking.
Yeah.
Networking is like being in a room, just putting your face. That's it.
Yeah.
Enough. Meeting with people, training, preparing. So therefore, what I'm deducting out of what you're saying is that in today's world, creative people cannot really rely on how good they are. They need to treat or believe and work as a business.
Yeah, you have to diversify.
Without abandoning their creativity, of course, but to think, so put themselves, because we are all now businesses.
Yes.
We can't avoid it. This is the reality.
Like, for example, I love making, just as a hypothetical example, let's say I like making documentaries about travel in Albania, which I like. Okay, to make money just from doing that is going to be very, very difficult. And I'm not going to make enough to survive. Okay, so what can I do? This is hypothetical. I know how to film, edit, do audio, lighting, write scripts, everything myself. Okay, so I want to make documentaries about Albania. But to fund that, to allow me to do that, I'm going to offer script writing, script editing. I'm going to go and photograph and film weddings. I'm going to teach kids about how to use cameras, and I'm going to charge for that. I'm going to do classes. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So to do that, I have to break down all the skills that I have that allows me to do that and figure out how I can make money from those things to support that. Because very few of us are lucky enough to be David Attenborough, for example, you know? This is the reality.
Yes.
It's good to have a dream and never let go of it, but we have to diversify to survive.
Perfect.
One thing about children and raising kids. So as a kid, I was always creative, as we've discussed, but I really feel that I was pressured to follow the academic route, which was not for me. And now I'm nearly 40 and I'm doing exactly what I told my parents I wanted to do when I was 5. But I took a huge detour because they thought that was what was best for me. My daughter's 6, nearly 7. She's very smart, but she told me, I think 3 months into school, Mummy, I'm not a girl for school. And obviously I'm going to make her go to school, and she has a private teacher and she's going to do her exams. But am I going to force her to go to university if she doesn't want to? No. Am I going to make sure she has the skills needed to survive in whatever it is she wants to do with her life, whether it's being a hairdresser or the president? Absolutely. I think we make mistakes when we force our kids. We think the only indicator of success in a child is academic achievement, is getting full marks in abattoir and maths. This is not true. There are kids, I'm sure, in every school in the world who get top marks, but they don't have social skills. They don't know about history. They don't know about culture. They don't know how rainbows are made. We are not focusing so much on soft skills and other skills. Maybe she'll be an athlete. Maybe she'll be a painter. Maybe she'll be a hairdresser. That's what she wants to be at the moment. Great. But we have to support our kids in the best way for them. She's 6. She can't know what the best way is for her now. So obviously she's going to do her schooling.
But if we nurture it by allowing them to, without really being too pushy, but at the same time giving our own example.
Yes.
For them to learn
I am strict. You will do your homework. You have your private teacher. You will do your exams.
But so consistency needs to be there.
Yes. But
which means that we don't give them a mobile phone and just be quiet.
And also I'm not going to say you have to go to university and study medicine. If you don't want to go to university, that's fine. But what do you want to do with your life? Okay, you want to go to vocational school. You want to open a business. Great, I'll support you.
And these skills are learned, through the confidence that they get from a very early age.
She's been exposed. I mean, she talks like a 12-year-old. Her teacher said I talk to her like an adult sometimes because the way she speaks, But yeah, I think academia is important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And I think especially by the time she is 18, the world's going to be a very different place when it comes to what jobs are available. And I'm thinking, AI, technology, all of this, soft skills, interpersonal skills are what is going to be in
emotional
demand.
Intelligence, apart from normal intelligence.
Knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to, like I do, take notes of the world around me and absorb information and critical think. This is what's going to be missing, as well as plumbers and electricians.
Yes, they're fundamental.
But what I'm saying is maths and writing are not the be-all and end-all of everything. Yes, she will know them, but art is just as important. Music is just what you learn when you study music. What I learning the violin, I'm not a famous violinist. I don't really play it anymore, but what I learned during those years, I apply every day in my life. Yeah. Discipline, how I stand up on the stage, applying myself to learning something, rehearsing something, remembering something.
Simple things such as, when you see a strong light coming to you, you don't get shocked like so many people because you've had that experience since you were a kid.
Yes, and knowing that if you make a mistake, it's all right, just carry on. Don't freak out.
Yeah, just drag it out, smile.
In the middle of my grade 6 violin exam, oh God, I've made a mistake. Okay. Continue, smile and get on with it. These things are just as important. What she learns when she goes to, she's probably not going to be an Olympic sprinter, but what she learns when she goes to her running class about working with her team and persevering and challenging yourself. And okay, you don't have to win everything, but you have to do your best for you. You have to be proud of yourself. These are important skills. More important than getting a 10 out of 10 in maths, I think.
Wonderful. Alice Taylor, we can go on forever talking because you are a powerhouse, honestly.
Thank you.
And you've brought so much to yourself, to the community, to this country, to Albania. And I think the whole world can learn a lot from the multifaceted talents that you are putting into practice, not just mulling it into your mind. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.